Okay, we're going to let legislative operations go first. I'm sorry, we're going to let growth and infrastructure go first. They've got a quorum on the floor.
Good morning. I'd like to call the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure to order for Behind the Bar. Committee Secretary, would you please call the roll? Disregard the roll call. I see that we have a quorum. Committee members, we have one bill draft request that requires committee introduction I'd like to introduce today. Please note that voting in favor of introducing a BDR does not imply a commitment to support the measure later. This action just allows the BDR to become a bill and refer to the committee for possible hearing. Bill draft request 43-861 revises provisions governing the rental and sharing of motor vehicles. Do I have a motion for committee introduction? I have a motion from Assemblyman Wheeler. Can I get a second? Second from Assemblywoman Peters. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, committee. GNI is now adjourned.
At this time, I'd like to call the Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services to order. We have a quorum present. We have two bill draft requests that need committee introduction. The first is BDR 39-1048, which revises provisions relating to disabilities. The second is BDR 40-1035, which revises provisions governing consent to retrieval of records from Health Information Exchange. Do I have a motion to introduce both BDRs? I see a motion from Assemblywoman Peters. Do I have a second? I see a second from Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries. At this time, we would stand in recess until 1:30.
Yes. Hi, I would like to call the meeting to order for legislative operations and elections. We also have a quorum and a bill draft request introduction for BDR 24-1039, an act providing that certain agencies of the Executive Department of State Government are automatic voter registration agencies, authorizing the governor to designate additional state agencies and certain tribal agencies as automatic voter registration agencies. I will entertain a motion to introduce BDR 24-1039. So moved. I think that was Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Do I have a second? Second by Speaker Frierson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Thank you so much. I will adjourn this meeting.
Good morning, committee members of Ways and Means. I'd like to go ahead and establish a quorum. I would call this meeting to order. I have established a quorum of members present. With that, the work before us this morning, members, is to introduce two bills. I have BDR 18-1104, an act relating to natural resources authorizing the Sagebrush Ecosystem Council to establish a fee for the program established by the council to mitigate damage to sagebrush ecosystems in the state and provide other matters properly relating thereto. I also have BDR 14-1080, revises provisions relating to the Nevada Sentencing Commission. I would accept a motion for bill draft introduction from Vice Chair Danielle Monroe Moreno and a second from Ms. Howdeggy. Any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, passes unanimously of the members present. This meeting is adjourned. See you all Monday morning at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to call the Assembly Revenue Committee to order. Okay. Good morning. I'd like to call the Assembly Revenue Committee to order. We have a quorum. We have one bill draft request that requires committee introduction, and I'd like to introduce it today. Please note that voting in favor of introducing a BDR does not imply commitment to support the measure later. This action just allows the BDR to become a bill and be referred to the committee for possible hearings. The BDR is BDR 32-1049, an act relating to taxation. It revises provisions governing the commerce tax. So with that, I will take a motion for committee introduction. I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bilberry Axelrod. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblyman O'Neill, who's very excited to second it. Thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Was that an actual nay? Okay, that was unanimous of all members present. With that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Good morning, Commerce and Labor members. We have a quorum. I would like to take this time to introduce 4 BDRs. We'll start with BDR 32-1049, which revises provisions governing the commerce tax. The next BDR we would like to introduce is BDR 57808, which revises provisions relating to vision insurance. Our next BDR is BDR 40513, which revises provisions relating to dead bodies. Our last BDR introduction is BDR 541137, which revises provisions relating to dentistry. Do I have a motion to introduce all? Oh, I have a motion by Vice Chair Carlton. Do I have a second? I have a second by Assemblywoman Marzola. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion has passed. Meeting adjourned.
Testing.
The assembly will come to order. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Assemblywoman Black. Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblywoman Carlton. Assemblywoman Cohen. Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblywoman Dickman. Assemblywoman Duran. Assemblyman Ellison. Assemblyman Flores. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Gorlow. Assemblyman Hafen. Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman Howdicke. Assemblywoman Kasama. Assemblywoman Krasner. Assemblyman Levitt. Assemblywoman Martinez. Assemblywoman Marzola. Assemblyman Matthews. Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblywoman Brittany Miller. Assemblyman C.H. Miller. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Assemblywoman Wynn. Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblyman Ortlicker. Assemblywoman Peters. Assemblyman Roberts. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblywoman Thomas. Assemblywoman Titus. Assemblywoman Tolles. Assemblywoman Torres. Assemblyman Watts. Assemblyman Wheeler. Assemblyman Yeager. Assemblywoman Black. Assemblyman Matthews. Speaker Frierson.
Here, Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect that Assemblywoman Black and Assemblyman Matthews are absent. Excused, we have 39 members present.
40?
We have 40 members present.
40 members present. There is a quorum. The assembly will please rise for the prayer by President Rajan Zed of the Universal Society of Hinduism in Reno.
भूर्भुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भार्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्. We meditate on the transcendental glory of the Deity Supreme, who is inside the heart of the earth, inside the life of the sky, and inside the soul of the heaven. May He stimulate and illuminate our minds. Ya Vishwa Abhivi Pasyati Bhuvanas Sam Cha Pasyati Sana Pusa Avita Bhuvat. That which intensely oversees the universe from above and fully sees the truth behind all things, may He protect us all. Trividam Naraka Saidam Dvaram Nasna Mat Mana Kama Krodha Stata Loba Statsma Detat Taryam Tyajat. Etiravi Mukta Kontya Tamo Dvara Istri Virana Ra Achara Tyat Mana Sriyas Tato Yati Param Gatim. There are 3 gates to self-destructive hell: lust, anger, and greed. Renounce these 3. Those who escape from these 3 gates of darkness seek what is best and attain life's supreme goal. Isa Vyasam Idam Sarvam Yat Kim Cha Jagat Yam Yagat Dena Tyaktena Bunjitha Ma Grada Kasya Savid Danam. The Lord is enshrined in the hearts of all. The Lord is the supreme reality. Rejoice in Him through renunciation. Covet nothing. All belongs to the Lord. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om. Thank you.
Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Reading and ordinance 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Thursday, March 25th.
Mr. Speaker.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with further reading of the journal and authorize the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make necessary corrections or additions.
You heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Order of Business 7, messages from the Senate.
Senate Chamber, Carson City, March 25, 2021, to the Honorable the Assembly. I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Senate on this day passed Senate Bills 4265, 196. Sherry Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate.
Order of Business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference bills. Oh, we have to go to Order of Business 8.
Notice of exemption, March 26, 2021, the Fiscal Analysis Division pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6 has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bills 230, 240, 243, 312, and 332. Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division.
Now we'll go to Order of Business 9.
Assembly Bill 424, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary and Activating Criminal Procedure, removing the requirement that an arrested person show good cause before being released without bail, requiring courts to conduct a pre-file release hearing to determine the custody status of an arrested person, requiring a partial release hearing to be held within a reasonable amount of time after a person has been taken into custody, removing mandatory amounts of bail for certain offenses, requiring certain pre-trial custody determinations to be made in a specific order of priority, requiring courts to consider certain information and making pre-trial custody determinations, affording persons certain rights concerning pre-trial release hearings, requiring courts to make specific findings concerning the denial of bail or the imposition of bail or conditions of release, creating a mechanism to bring a person back to court if such a person cannot afford the imposed amount of bail or costs associated with conditions of release, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 424 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 425, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary and Activating Criminal Procedure, establishing the Criminal Forfeiture Process Act, revising provisions relating to the civil forfeiture of property and proceeds attributable to certain crimes, authorizing the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission to provide training in the certification of peace officers relating to the Act, repealing certain provisions relating to property subject to forfeiture, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 425 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 426, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary and Act relating to the protection of children, authorizing an agency which provides child welfare service or its designee to request a warrant to place a child in protective custody under certain circumstances, revising the requirements for notice given to certain persons of certain hearings, authorizing the Attorney General to sign a petition alleging that a child is in need of protection, making various other changes relating to the protection of children, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 426 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, I would move that Assembly Bill 426 be referred to your Committee on Health and Human Services.
Well, have we done 426 yet? Is that the one we just did?
426?
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, if we could go to Order of Business 8, I think that we would need to reconsider the action under which we referred Assembly Bill 426 and then refer it to the proper committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under Order of Business 8?
Order of Business 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd move to reconsider the action by where we referred Assembly Bill 426 to your Committee on the Judiciary.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Still under Order of Business 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd move that Assembly Bill 426 be referred to your Committee on Health and Human Services.
Without objection, so referred. We'll go back to Order of Business 9.
Assembly Bill 427, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary and Act relating to Public Safety, revising provisions relating to the revocation of the license, permit, or privilege of a driver, revising provisions concerning the issuance of a restricted driver's license, authorizing the Department of Motor Vehicles to issue an ignition interlock privilege to certain persons in lieu of a restricted driver's license, establishing provisions concerning ignition interlock devices, requiring the Director of the Department of Motor Vehicles to establish the ignition interlock program and adopt rules and regulations necessary to carry out the program, establishing the account for the ignition interlock program, requiring the Department of Public Safety to adopt regulations establishing certain reasonable fees relating to ignition interlock devices, transferring certain duties from the Committee on Testing for Intoxication to the Department of Public Safety, revising various provisions concerning offenders who commit a violation of driving under the influence of alcohol or a prohibited substance, revising provisions relating to the statewide sobriety and drug monitoring program, authorizing a person who commits a first violation within 7 years of driving under the influence of alcohol or a prohibited substance to be sentenced to residential confinement in lieu of imprisonment, revising provisions relating to certain programs of treatment established by courts, providing penalties, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 427 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 428, introduced by Assemblywoman Titus. An act relating to health care, providing that a patient is presumed to consent to the retrieval of his or her health care records from a health information exchange unless the patient opts out, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 428 be referred to your Committee on Health and Human Services.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 429, introduced by the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, an act relating to motor vehicles establishing provisions governing the licensing and operation of a peer-to-peer car sharing program and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we refer AB 429 to your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 430, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to disabilities, revising certain terms used to describe the provision of certain services to persons with intellectual disabilities and persons with developmental disabilities, removing related obsolete terms and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 430 be referred to your Committee on Health and Human Services.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 431, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to health care, providing that a patient is presumed to consent to the retrieval of his or her health care records from a health information exchange unless the patient opts out, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 431 be referred to your Committee on Health and Human Services.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 432, introduced by the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, an act relating to elections, providing that certain agencies of the Executive Department of the State Government are automatic voter registration agencies, authorizing the governor to designate additional state agencies and certain tribal agencies as automatic voter registration agencies, setting forth the requirements for an automatic voter registration agency to transmit certain voter registration information to the Secretary of State and county clerks, making various changes to the existing automatic voter registration process and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 432 be referred to your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 433, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act relating to natural resources, authorizing the Sagebrush Ecosystem Council to establish a fee for a program established by the council to mitigate damage to sagebrush ecosystems in the state, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 433 be referred to your Committee on Natural Resources.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 434, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act relating to the Nevada Sentencing Commission, providing that the salaries for legislators who are members of the Sentencing Commission must be paid from the legislative fund, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 434 be referred to your Committee on Ways and Means.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 435, introduced by the Committee on Revenue, an act relating to taxation, expanding the exemption from the commerce tax for persons who take part in certain events for a purpose related to the conduct of business, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 436 be referred to your Committee on on Revenue.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 436, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, an act relating to health care, prohibiting an insurer from entering into a contract with a provider of vision care that contains certain provisions, requiring an insurer to provide certain information to a provider of vision care before entering into a contract to include the provider in the network of the insurer, prescribing certain requirements concerning the advertising and marketing of vision coverage, authorizing the imposition of an administrative penalty, limiting the rates that a provider of vision care may charge to patients for vision care provided out of network, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 436 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 437, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, an act relating to decedents, authorizing a coroner to allow the transportation of human remains to a funeral establishment in an adjacent state under certain circumstances, revising the qualifications for a license to practice the profession of embalming, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 437 be referred to your Committee on Government Affairs.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 438, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, an act relating to dentistry, authorizing the Board of Dental Examiners of Nevada to employ persons for certain purposes, prescribing conditions concerning such employment, revising provisions governing the treatment of a patient by a dentist, dental hygienist, or dental therapist licensed in another jurisdiction during certain courses of continuing education, providing for the licensure by endorsement of dentists and dental hygienists, prohibiting the imposition of disciplinary action against a dentist, dental hygienist, or dental therapist for certain reasons, revising the types of disciplinary action that the Board is authorized to impose, revising provisions concerning the investigation of a complaint against a dentist, dental hygienist, or dental therapist, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 438 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 439, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, an act relating to occupational licensing, requiring a regulatory body to issue a license by endorsement to engage in a profession or an occupation to certain persons affiliated with the armed forces of the United States, requiring a regulatory body to collect certain data concerning applicants for a license and post certain information on an internet website, requiring a regulatory body to issue a license by endorsement to engage in certain health-related professions to a person who meets certain requirements, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 439 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Senate Bill 42, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary, an act relating to courts, revising provisions governing the printing and distribution of certain court rules and the decisions of the Nevada Supreme Court and the Nevada Court of Appeals, eliminating the requirement for the Nevada Supreme Court to provide by rule for mandatory training concerning certain litigation involving medical malpractice for certain district judges, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bill 42 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Senate Bill 65, introduced by the Committee on Natural Resources, an act relating to agriculture, revising provisions relating to the composition and administration of the State Department of Agriculture, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bill 65 be referred to your Committee on Natural Resources.
Without objection, so referred.
Senate Bill 196, introduced by Senators Lang et al., an act relating to health care, prohibiting a provider of health care or a person supervised by a provider of health care from performing a pelvic examination under certain circumstances, authorizing the imposition of professional discipline against certain providers of health care who perform or supervise the performance of a prohibited pelvic examination, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bill 196 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred. We can go to Order Business 15, remarks from the floor. Assemblywoman Krasner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order Business 15.
As we know, March is Women's History Month. Today is the 91st birthday of United States Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. She served as a trailblazer, becoming the first woman majority leader of a state senate as the Republican leader in Arizona. She also blazed the trail for women, being the first female justice of the United States Supreme Court, appointed by President Ronald Reagan in 1981. She received her bachelor's degree from Stanford University and her Juris Doctor degree from Stanford University. She took the bar exam and passed. She then applied to every law firm up and down the state of California and did not receive one offer as an attorney. She did, however, receive an offer to be a secretary in a law firm. Later, she did finally receive an offer from the Deputy District Attorney's Office in San Mateo, California, and she went on to become a United States Supreme Court Justice. Please join me in applauding her on her birthday. Thank you.
Anything else under Order Business 15? Seeing none, Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seeing no other business before us, I would move that the Assembly stand adjourned until Monday, March 29th, at the hour of 11:30 a.m., 2021.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.